Alright, in this video we're going to show you how to do an engagement letter. To access the template, you go to KSource Communities Transaction Services to bring you to the TAS community page. On the right hand side there is a link for the standard engagement letter template. Follow that link you get here, download this document, save it to your desktop. Make a copy of it because you'll need the baseline template to run a red line of the engagement letter, which needs to be attached to the ACEA. We'll talk through that at a later stage in this training, but for now just know that you have to do a draft engagement letter and run a red line. So there are two things you need to have in the engagement letter other than the template. The first thing is Appendix A, the statement of work. This is your scope. You tailor that to the specific engagement, the target or the company, depending on whether it's buy side or sell side. You'll look through that, determine what industry they're in, etc., and tailor procedures accordingly. To find the draft scope of work, you will go to the TAS SharePoint page, open the Project Starter folder. Within the Project Starter folder, Folder 5, Scope of Procedures, houses all the draft scopes. Typically we use the CIP template. That's your run-of-the-mill manufacturing client. So I copied that from the Project Starter folder into this folder that I'm working in called Engagement Letter Example. So I have 2 copies of the draft engagement letter and 1 copy of whatever scope I'm going to add in. The next thing you need to have in there is Appendix B, that is the release letter. It is used for releasing our report to third parties. To access this, you're supposed to be able to go to the TAS SharePoint page, but the link is no longer available. So you have to pull a draft from another engagement that you've worked on, or if you're new, ask somebody around your office to give you the draft engagement letter. So right now I'm just renaming one of the copies of the draft template to whatever I want it to be. In this example, it'll be client name, project name. We're not really going to complete it, but I'm going to walk you through how to complete it. The first thing I'm going to do is open this document, and I'm going to add Appendix A, the scope of work, and Appendix B, the release letter, to the end of the draft. So this is the template. You're going to complete it for your applicable engagement. It will have the engagement letter, the scope of work, and the release letter. The 2 things I ask someone before I start one of these. The first thing is, what our fees going to be? Which example should I use? Is it going to be an estimate of fees? Is it going to be based on hourly rates or discounted rates times hours? So you're going to have to talk to the manager or partner on the job to see what they want to see in the engagement letter. So I ask that, and then I also ask about timing. There's a blurb in there that says we will deliver our report within X number of weeks from start. I always ask about that. And then I ask about what, if anything, we want to see in the scope of work, which will come with experience. The first one will be tough, but after a few you're going to be pretty good at them. So here I'm editing the header for the office address. Edit that for whatever partner you're working with. If it's Chicago, put in Chicago. If it's Atlanta, Atlanta. If it's Charlotte, put in Charlotte. Here we're going to put in today's date or a placeholder for the date and the person you're addressing the letter to, typically the CFO of the company or whoever. You're going to fill in the fields in red for proposed acquisition of, blank target name, etc. This section here asks if the client is an SEC audit client. If so, you have to have this blurb in there. If that does not apply, you remove it. Next paragraph references the scope of work in Appendix A. We added that at the beginning, so we tailor that at the end. The next thing relates to an optional blurb related to third-party service providers. If we're using an external contractor or an international member firm, we have to have that language in there. If that's not applicable, remove it. There's a paragraph in here about our report. If we're not producing a written report, you need to edit that paragraph. The next paragraph relates to limited distribution. It just references Appendix B, our release letter, which we added at the beginning. Next thing is the timing paragraph that I referenced earlier. You'll just want to ask what we want to put in here, if anything. The next part is probably the hardest part of the actual engagement letter, determining how you want to present the fees and what fees to present. Option 1 is just a fee estimate. Hey, we anticipate your fee to be between $75 and $100. Okay, pretty easy. Option 2 would be if we're billing them hourly at our standard or discounted rates. You just usually put in, Option 2, you would provide a fee range for each one of the service lines involved. So if you have financial, tax, IT, operations, comp and benefits, you would provide an estimate for each. So financial would be 60, tax 20, HR, comp 10, etc. So that's just a more detailed look at it if there are many different services being provided. Option 3 is a hours times rates format where we're billing them hourly, so we just provide an estimate of, well, not an estimate, we provide the rates for each level that we're going to be billing. So for example, if we're billing at 85% of our standard rates, you just key in those rates rounded to the nearest $5, and that is what presented. You also have a thing in there for the admin fee. That is typically 7% unless otherwise noted. Rest of it is kind of just legal protection related items. Fill in the partner name at the bottom and the client name for signature. Then you have Appendix A, which is the scope of work. You will modify the dates at the beginning accordingly for the most recent fiscal years and most recent TTM period. Here I'll just give a few high-level things. If you're not doing an audit work paper review, remove that. If the target does not have inventory, delete that. And then you'll have to look through the information you've been given, such as audited financial statements, trial balances, etc., to tailor the scope to whatever engagement it is. So if it's software as a service, you know you need procedures around revenue recognition, multiple deliverables, deferred revenue, etc. If it's a small company, it's not audited, you may want to do a cash proof of revenue. You may want to do a payroll rec, stuff like that. So, you try to tailor it to the specific company and the industry. The last part is the release letter. You just fill in a couple fields in there and leave the rest blank so the client can edit it as they send it out. And the last thing I'm editing here is the header on each page for the client name. And that's it. That's a high-level overview of how to do an engagement letter. Scope of work. Next part, we're going to run a red line of this engagement letter. That is basically just a comparison of the document you produced versus the standard template. To run this, you go up to Review, Compare, select the template as the first document, and then the revised document is the draft you just created. Click Run, save it as the red line draft engagement letter, and you're good to go. When you do an ACEA form, you will attach both the draft engagement letter and the red line to the ACEA so someone can see the draft and a comparison versus standard. Easy enough. So, that's it. Thank you.